Nevin Maguire.
Mr.
And I'm sure everybody in this room will have known Nevin or knows Nevin in some capacity, be it as brilliant chef, restaurateur, television chef, who attracted was it 480,000 viewers at his most recent cookery television. I can't remember the name.
Okay. You must have watched it.
That's
okay. You were not one of the 490,000. But that's okay. I love honesty.
Yeah, television was broken. Nevin is very good to come here today to give us time. So he'll have half an hour. He'll be here for half an hour and be heading off then back to Black Lion, where he's going to be catering for 92 people for dinner for this evening. So here we go.
Thank you so much.
Nevin,
I'm delighted first
thank
of all.
you.
I hope you've all enjoyed your morning. Thank you. So, yeah, thank you very much, everyone. It's lovely to be here. What an absolutely fabulous day and setting. Have you all enjoyed your lunch?
Yes.
And your ice cream? I saw you all
Yes.
queuing up. That was a great idea, I must say. My God, how lucky are we with the weather? So what I'm going to share with you is just, first of all, my story of how I started the business, my own life, where I worked, and really how we've made, I think, Michelin an amazing success. Now, it's not down to me, it's down to my team. So, first of all, a little bit of history about myself. I've been cooking from the age of 12. It's all I wanted to do is to be a chef. And where I really got my passion and my flair was from my mother. I'm one of 9, 5 boys and 4 girls in our family. And all of them worked in the restaurant, but none of them wanted to continue it on. But they all have an appreciation of food, and also they know the hard work. They all knew, listen, this isn't for me. But I knew definitely. I left school, I didn't do my leaving cert, I left school after my junior cert. And then I applied for Killybegs College. That was my number one choice. And I remember going for the interview, and God, I was made feel that small. And I said to myself, okay, you know, I didn't enjoy that. I don't know if that went well, because you had to have a written test, which I passed, and then you got to do the interview. So I got a letter in the post saying I wasn't accepted into Killybegs, and that was really, really difficult for me. But I said, okay, that's fine, I'm not good enough for that. I rang in a skill in Fermanagh College the next day, and Marion Campbell was the lady's name, and she said, listen, come on in, we'd love to have you. And it's amazing fate, I'm a big believer in fate, especially in my life, the way things are meant to be for a reason. And so I went in there, I got my qualifications, and I ended up teaching there, would you believe it, for 6 years. And that's where I learned an awful lot about working with young people, which I'll come back to. So Mum and Dad opened the restaurant. They bought the business, first of all, in 1965. They bought it for £1,000, which was a lot of money at that time. And it was a Garda barracks, if I remember right. And then we extended, we had maybe 4 bedrooms and then 5. So then from 73 to 89, there were awful years, as you all know from this part of the world, along the border. No one wanted to come near. Our house was bombed twice. I was only a baby, so I can't really remember. But what Mum and Dad really survived on was bed and breakfast, and also my mum would have done catering in the golf club and different, shall we say, dinner parties and different events like that. And my dad actually opened up a garage just behind the restaurant, and his nickname was Joe Diesel, so it was. So yeah, and you know, I suppose with my parents, they just knew I wanted to be a chef. And when we reopened in 1989, I just knew this is for me. I wanted to be there and learn, and I just wanted to cook. That's all I wanted to do. I just loved being in the kitchen with my mother, and she was the greatest influence on my life, to be honest with you. She taught me so much about respecting food, respecting people, and just enjoying your job, and that's the secret. I think a big part of my success is that I love my job so much. I'm not a day out into my kitchen, I regret what I do. So after that then I went to Fermanagh College, and after I qualified for Fermanagh College, my first job was working in Roscoff's in Belfast with Paul Rankin, and that was an amazing restaurant. It was a tough restaurant. I was one of the first, shall we say, stagiaires. So you go in, everyone at about 9, and most of the students would finish at 3:30, and that wasn't me. I wanted to stay until the end of service. So I went there, and I stayed there until about maybe 11, whenever we were finished up. So I was there to learn. I wasn't there to go home and watch TV. I was there to learn, wrote down all notes every night, drew pictures of the dishes that, and I'll never forget the very first time I went into the kitchen in Roscoff. The pastry chef said, God, another one, go over there and do the veg. You know what I mean? And then for lunch, I missed lunch and I got really hungry. You'll find this very funny. And I asked the pastry chef, do you mind if I have a bread roll? And she says, yeah, of course you can, help yourself, no problem. So then Paul Rankin, this is my first time meeting him now. So he says to me, excuse my French, I'm going to quote exactly what he said to me. He said, who the fuck's eating the bread roll? And I said, that's me, Mr. Rankin, sorry. He said, no, I buy sliced bread for the staff, that's for my customers. So I said, I let him cool down. He was pretty annoyed, to be honest with you. And of course, when you're a young chef in a commie, you're sawing the bones, you're scrubbing the cookers, you're prepping, you're not cooking. You're not cooking at all, you're just doing what we call mise en place. So that really was a tough kitchen for me, and really made me realise just, it was a Michelin Star, there was some wonderful chefs there. Robbie Miller, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago, was absolutely amazing. Eugene O'Callaghan, and it was great. But one thing I learned was that the real boss behind the business, Paul, was a wonderful chef and a genius, but his wife, she used to come in at 6 o'clock every single morning to do the bookkeeping and all that. She was incredible, she was an absolute lady, and I never saw anything like the way he was so disrespectful to her. I couldn't get over it. It was a real eye-opener for me. It was the first really tough kitchen that I worked in, and then I went after 3 months and I asked, Mr. Rankin, could I get a reference? He said, excuse me again, who the fuck do you think you are? You'll never make it as a chef. He said, you're burnt out, you're never going to make it as a chef. And I said, that's fine, okay. So after that time I went to work in Germany, I went to work in Berlin in the Grand Hotel. And it was like a training program. There was chefs, there was butchers, bakers. I was the only chef actually, by the way. It was in Berlin. So I went to work, and this was an incredible experience for me. It was in East Berlin, and there was 125 chefs in the kitchen. 7 different restaurants. It was incredible. But the love they had for the Irish. The very first day they opened the meat fridge, it was Irish beef and Irish lamb and the Green Ireland. That's what they kept saying to me. There was a great empathy there. There was great warmth. They were very respectful, and I loved it. I have to say, I absolutely loved it. So then after that, when I go away and used to work in restaurants, I always came back. Mum was running the restaurant. My sisters were helping out. My dad was there. They were very much a family-run restaurant. How business has changed now, but we still have the same, shall we say, ethos and I suppose the standards and I suppose what I want to put through in my business, that we give them the McNeil experience, which I will talk about. So after that then I went away and I worked in Arzak. It's a 3 Michelin Star restaurant. I worked there for 3 months. I never got paid. There was 25 chefs in the kitchen, only 9 of them got paid, and the rest of them worked there for a year for free, and that was incredible. And when you were prepping everyone, so it's a 3 Michelin Star restaurant, one of the top restaurants in the world, and it was incredible. They were very nice to me. The dirtiest kitchen I ever worked in. I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. I said, my God, if we had that in our restaurant in Ireland, we'd be closed in the morning. I couldn't believe it. So when you were prepping, you couldn't go like this. There was 2 chefs either side of you, and it was a really great experience for me. It was the only kitchen I ever worked in that there was a chef and he was the creator. What he did, he never cooked. So he worked from 9 to 5 and he just created dishes on a small little table, done them up for the menu. I'd never seen that before. That was really good. And he'd call me over, he'd let me taste things. It was really, really interesting for me. Also, it's the first kitchen I ever witnessed drugs in, which I felt really, really uncomfortable with, because I think the drug should be the cooking, and the love and the passion. I don't accept and I don't tolerate any of that, because I think, that it should be a natural buzz that you get from your work. That's my opinion anyway. And that really kind of shook me a little bit. Not that I ever would go down that route, but it was really interesting. And it was the Maddest Kitchen. They were roaring and shouting. It was just incredible, but they were very good. It was a father and daughter who ran the kitchen. And then I came back and worked. So always when I went away, I always came back and got new ideas, and as a chef and someone in business, very different from running a restaurant to managing 50 staff I've working for me now. And that's where my wife really comes in and helps me. Because I'm not great at the bookkeeping or anything like that. She really she's fantastic, and she's working 3 days a week, but we have a wonderful team around me now, which is really important for me. I'm at a good stage in my life now that I have good advice, I have an agent, and we have a great team now in the restaurant. So, I suppose with your media profile, the very first time I ever did a cooking program on television, I'll never forget it. It was Open House. I don't know if you remember. It was with Martha Whelan and Mary Kennedy. Now, so I'll tell you how that came around, and it's amazing the way fate happens too. So I was one of maybe 20 different chefs that were picked, and maybe you go up twice a year. And then they said, no, we're going to have a resident chef. So I went up to the Late Late studio. There was myself, just a helper, a friend of mine drove me up, and then there was a camera lady, and then the director. No one else in the studio. So I cooked a salad of spicy chicken. I was so nervous, I was shaking. I swear to God, I nearly wet myself, I was that nervous. But I was really excited too. They rang me up the next day saying, Nevin, the gig is yours if you want it. So every Tuesday I was on live on television for 6 years. And that was incredible. To me, that was the start of the getting your name out there, and you can't pay for that. Just the whole media and the television work is something I really enjoy doing. I don't want to do any more than I'm doing at the minute, but I really enjoy it. And you couldn't buy that advertisement. That's about using local food, regional food, and that's the essence of good food and good cooking. So, my food has changed so much, and it will evolve again and again and again. And I've just finished my 12th cookbook. This is my 11th cookbook, everyone, that I've here, the McNeil Cookbook. And this is probably my best book ever, if you want my honest, because I'll tell you what's my best book ever. It's because there's lots of stories and recipes from the restaurant, but also it's dedicated to my mother. I lost my mother last year to cancer, which was really tough. She suffered for about a year and a half, and she was a great inspiration to me. A wonderful, wonderful, taught me so many great values, not just about business, but about respecting and caring for people and looking after them. And I'm a big believer, like I make lots of mistakes in my life, but if you learn from it, that's the most important thing I can say to any young chef that comes in. You know, you go into a bad kitchen, you can be put off cooking for the rest of your life. You know, there's a serious amount of abuse, not as much as there was, because people shouldn't put up with that. You know, last year I went and worked in for 2 weeks in January it was a 2 Michelin Star restaurant in Amsterdam. And it was very interesting because I'd interviewed this chef, because with my television work I go around and I interview different chefs, but he uses all Irish beef. Roger Razan is his name. He was amazing. And he loved Ireland, he'd been over to Ireland, and I said, listen, do you mind if I come and work for 2 weeks? So that was fine, you pay your accommodation, they give you food, they were so good to me. But I couldn't get over everyone, how quiet it was. There was some days we didn't nobody for lunch. There's 20 chefs in the kitchen. Some nights we might do 15 for dinner. Wow. Made me realise, my God, we are so lucky in a small village in Blacklion that we're booked up 6 months ahead. That's incredible. That is incredible. This is one of the best restaurants, and it's a 95 bedroom hotel, the Amstel Hotel, the most prestigious hotel in Amsterdam. Some nights we only had 10 people staying. So it made me realise, I don't know, maybe it's just January might be a quiet time, I can't explain it, but I'd say maybe the recession had just nipped that in the bud a little bit, to be honest with you, you know, and but they were really, really good to me. So this year where I hope to go is a place called Texture in London. This is a chef that I really admire. He uses no cream or butter in his cooking. He's Icelandic, and he uses Irish lamb and beef and Irish salmon actually, and shellfish. But this guy is a really interesting guy. He's in a restaurant called Texture. I think he's one of the best food some of the best food I've ever eaten. So I suppose I have a very varied life. People think I'm never there in the restaurant. I'm there 90%. I was there yesterday, I'm there this weekend, and next week I'm there. Next week I'm in London cooking for Bord Bia. And Bord Bia, for me, are doing great work to promote our beautiful country that really has some great food. And I think that's going to really help us out of this recession, is you want to see the amount of people that I meet. I've been to Tokyo, Washington, I've been to Paris, Amsterdam, but the way Ireland is perceived, we're very lucky as a country that we're seen as being very natural, very unspoiled, wonderful, warm people. Not many countries can say that. I've only 1 minute, God, Jesus. My God, this flies. But so I have an amazing variety in my life, and I'm very, very lucky. I mean, I have 50 staff working for me in Blacklion. Girls told me yesterday that we have in the bedroom, we have 19 bedrooms, you know, free for the rest of the year, which is incredible. The next available dinner, just a table, is October. But I've seen the hard times. People come and say, God, there's no recession in Cavan. I said, we never left the recession. No, all joking apart, but we would, like, I remember cooking for 6 or 8 people in the restaurant during the Troubles. We struggled for years. We looked to move so many times, and then we got the break in television, and the rest is history. You know, to be honest with you. But I'm a big believer in doing one, giving it all your heart, enjoying what you do. This year my project is opening up my cookery school, which will be literally next door to the restaurant. So we've evolved, we've added on to our business. We have 19 bedrooms. We do 90 tonight, 92 I think we booked tonight, and we have a staff of 50, which is incredible in Blacklion. And I honestly believe if you offer great value, great food, we're not cheap or we're not expensive. I know from eating that, we're not a cheap, because we're buying the best. And I think if you offer what we call the McNeely experience, where they get really warm hospitality, where people don't feel they have to worry about what they're wearing, or I want people to feel relaxed. You know, just tell you one thing quickly, people say, you know, would you like a Michelin Star? And I said, no, the only Michelin I want is tires in my car. And they were here last year with me, and we had a great chat, and they said, Nevin, you're always so busy, we can never get a booking. You know, if you simplify your food, you know, you'll get your star. And I said, listen, I'll simplify my food if my customers want me to. I don't cook with a Michelin guide. You know, they don't like to hear that sometimes, but I don't care. I'm going to stand up. I have to believe in what I want, and what my customers want, and what they come from to experience, you know. And I'm very, very proud of what we've achieved in Blacklion. But it's all about your team. I'm nothing. I have a great head chef who's with me 10 years. Most of my staff are with me between 4, 5, 6 years. Some of the girls in the restaurant are with me 15, 16 years. So I'm a big believer, we're all in business and work with people. If you look after people and they feel part of the success, you know, and listen, we all have good days and bad days, but thank God the majority are good days, and you have to love what you do, and I do. As I said, it's never a day that I go into my kitchen, I regret what I do. I just love talking about food, I love eating it, as you can see, and I love the whole subject of food, you know, and I'm delighted to be here to talk to you. I'm sorry my time is up.